Week 10, double digits. I can't believe it, but we keep moving forward. And from a top down big picture analysis, when we're entering our DFS lineups this morning, we're locking them in. We're hoping to live that screenshot life and smash and win some big money. Where are we looking? Obviously, we're starting with the Seahawks and Rams. By far the best game of the week, and a game where you can absolutely run it back stacks here and make half of your lineup this game, right? We have the Seahawks, who are fourth in offensive DVOA, let Russ cook season. We have the Rams, who are fifth in offensive DVOA, Sean McVay. Rams at home against the historically bad Seahawks defense, who are also missing a lot of their cornerbacks this week. Sean McVay likes to run the ball, but they should have success throwing, so there's a lot of options there for the Rams. And then, of course, we have, again, like I said, let Russ cook season. The Rams are eighth in defensive DVOA, which, kind of raises some eyebrows, but I think they're kind of a fake good defense. I've talked about this before. Outside of Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, I don't think they have a ton. And I could see Russell Wilson, it's Russell Wilson, right? Doing what Josh Allen did to the Rams earlier this year and just going nuclear and showing, oh yeah, this defense, when they play a really, really good team and a really good quarterback, isn't all that, we think it is. And that makes me excited from a tournament standpoint, because I do feel like I've heard, everybody is hammering how bad the Seahawks defense is, that I do think people might lean a little bit more towards the Rams offense, which I think could be a trap. I like game stacks where you run it back with a couple of Rams, but I don't like kind of, putting all of my money on Jared Goff and making sure this offense hits, because I think the Seahawks win this game, and I want to continue to roll with Russell Wilson. And I do think that this is a week in tournaments where I'm wanting to rock with both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, because one, I think there's a little bit of hidden, leverage there, again, because everybody wants to attack the Seahawks. And two, I think at this point, everybody has decided that, well, only one of these receivers can go off at, in any given week. And we know that that's not true, right? Like at some point, these two guys are going to go off together, because the target distribution is so shallow. No Carlos Hyde, no Chris Carson. Russell Wilson should continue to throw the ball. I'm not worried about Jalen Ramsey, not against Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, two of the best wide receivers in the game. It's a perfect leverage spot for Lockett, especially, who hasn't had a good game in a couple weeks, but just 2-3 weeks ago, he just had 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, reminding us what he can do. Even if both of these guys just go over 100 yards and score 1 touchdown, you stack it with Russ, you run it back with some of these Rams. Yeah, I'm feeling good about that today, and that's going to kind of be the centerpiece of a lot of my lineups. But we do know that if we're making multiple tournament lineups, that we do want to diversify. So where else are we looking? The Bills and Cardinals is another good game that you can game stack. The Bills are 10th in offensive DVOA, coming off, Josh Allen shook off the rust from a couple of down games and balled out against the Seahawks. Why people want to attack them, I get it. And then the Cardinals are 9th in offensive DVOA. And this is a Lamar Jackson 2020 for Kyler Murray, an even better start to 2020 than Lamar Jackson had in 2019. Incredible. Now, the Bills were able to take care of Seattle. Seattle had to fly cross country and play in Buffalo. This time it's kind of the opposite. Buffalo's flying to play Arizona. So something to keep in mind. And the Cardinals have been so good, and they have the better matchup against the Bills' defense, because the Bills' defense has not been what we thought it was going to be. The Bills' defense is 17th in defensive DVOA, and they've been getting cooked. And so I prefer the Cardinals side of this if you're making stacks. DeAndre Hopkins is an interesting tournament play after a down game last week. Stacking with Kyler Murray, Christian Kirk continues to ball out. And then, of course, we can run it back with some of the options on the Bills. But there are also teams in great spots. And I passionately talked last week about some of these domination stacks, and they didn't work out. But you always want to keep it top of mind, because it can. And we saw it play out with the Chiefs at home against the Jets, a classic example, where it almost won people lots of money. or did win people lots of money and almost won me money. The Packers at home against the Jaguars, a very similar situation. Packers second in offensive DVOA. We know Aaron Rodgers is on a tear. It's angry Aaron Rodgers all season, especially when he's playing easy defenses. When he's playing a tough defense like the Bucs, it's a different story. But the Jaguars are dead last in defensive DVOA. They're not a good team. Jake Luton will not continue to do what he did last week consistently. The Texans' defense is that bad, and I would be talking about the Browns in this video, but the weather seems to be off there, so something to keep in mind. But the Texans' defense is that bad. Now the Jaguars are going on the road in Green Bay. No, this should be a domination spot here. But the weather is a concern. But Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, we know who the major players are in Green Bay. And so you probably want to get one of those two players in most of your lineups because they should have a field day. A couple other spots to round it out. The Steelers at home against the Bengals. Steelers, middle of the pack in offensive DVOA, 15th. Makes sense, especially after what we saw last week. But every team has a down game like this. The Steelers are still 8-0, undefeated, and the offense has played a big role with that. Obviously, the defense too. But they're at home this week against a Bengals defense that's 29th in defensive DVOA. They're very banged up. Hard not to want to get at least some exposure to the Steelers, especially because a lot of these pass catchers remain extremely affordable and underpriced on both FanDuel and DraftKings. And James Conner is a fantastic tournament play because he had a down game last week. And if Joe Burrow balls out, which we know he can do even against a tough defense, then that's fine too, because we know that would force Mike Tomlin and the Steelers offense to keep their foot on the gas pedal. And even if he doesn't and the defense dominates the Bengals, then all of a sudden we're talking about a domination spot where the Steelers offense has the ball all the time. And we know Mike Tomlin's not one to take his foot off the gas pedal. Last one, Saints at home against the 49ers. Saints are 6th in offensive DVOA. 49ers just aren't the team that they were last year, unfortunately, due to injuries, both on offense and defense. And the Saints are, one of the best teams in football. They're 6-2. They have a plus 44 point differential. They should win this game. But again, similar situation to Joe Burrow. If Kyle Shanahan pulls some magic and keeps this game competitive or wins this game, then we like that from a Saints DFS perspective, because that means that Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, who's back and is a fantastic tournament play, Emmanuel Sanders, who's back off the COVID list and playing well, Alvin Kamara, all of these guys are fantastic plays either way as well. So obviously, you can sprinkle in some good plays outside of these spots, but this is just, my process. And obviously, I'm not the only one talking about this, but if we stick here and, formulate our plays based off these spots, it usually is going to work out. Trust the process, stick to the process. Hope everybody has a good week 10.